Little and Broken, but Still Good, by Wicked Writer on AO3. Episode 12, Chapter 12. Eri, you have 5 more minutes, then it's time to get ready for bed. Shouta called out. He was in the middle of washing the plates from dinner, so he wasn't able to properly go down the hall and remind Eri about bedtime like usual. He didn't like to shout too often, always worried whether she would react badly to a raised voice. But after nearly a year in school, Eri was acting like most other kids her age, so he wasn't too worried about being a little louder from time to time. Just as the last plot was placed on the drying rack, there was a loud knock, as if someone was trying to break down the front door. Eri emerged from her room and looked at Shouta with a puzzled look on her face. He walked over and peered in the peephole. A wave of relief washed over him to see Hitoshi standing there, and not some random person. However, that relief was dispelled quickly when he realized that he shouldn't be there. Hitoshi should be at home. It seems like things were starting to get better. His father had agreed to a program for his alcoholism. He opened the door to ask what was happening, but words died on his tongue the moment he saw Hitoshi's expression. While he looked physically unharmed, the young boy was on the verge of tears. "I'm not going back," Hitoshi stated, firmly, and moved past Shouta into the apartment. "I don't care what anyone says, I can't." Shouta took his backpack and set it on the floor before ushering him towards the kitchen table. He noticed that besides his school bag, Hitoshi brought nothing else with him. Luckily, there were some spare clothes in his room, but they might have to go shopping soon. He scooped up Eri, who was on her way to greet Hitoshi, and told her to wait in her room. That he would get her shortly, but they needed a minute to talk. "What's going on, Toshi?" He returned and took the seat next to him. It was obvious that Hitoshi wasn't looking for advice, but an ear he could vent to. Things were starting to get better. Hitoshi sounded so sad. Dad was sober. Like, actually sober for the first time. I started to go to therapy and made friends with my new class. My therapist suggested that I start journaling, so I did. He continued. Every night before bed, I would write down good things about my day or just complain or whatever I needed. Shouta nodded, but didn't interrupt. But then, Dad found it. He started reading it without me knowing, and Hitoshi looked up, his cheeks turned pink as he explained the story. He found the part where I wrote about having a crush on a classmate. "I'm sorry that he read your personal journal. That isn't okay." Shouta placed a hand on his shoulder, trying to comfort him as best as possible. "But if I'm being honest, I don't understand why that means you can't go back. We can have a conversation with him and set up boundaries." "You don't understand." Hitoshi looked down at his lap, almost like he was worried about what he was going to say next. "It was about a boy in my class." "Oh." Shouta worried about what kind of comment Hitoshi had to endure from his dad. Hearing what little he had said about himself and Hizashi that night was more than he wanted to hear. Seeing how worried Hitoshi was at telling him this indicated that his dad wasn't very kind to him. He needed to call Sergio before he did something rash, like confront Nakio. "We got into it after that, so I left, just grabbed my bag and walked out the door." Hitoshi sounded so broken. "He had no right to read my stuff." "I know, Hitoshi." Shouta didn't know quite what to say. He remembered back when he was in high school. He never had a family to come out to, so he couldn't relate to what Hitoshi was going through, but he could be there for support. "I just thought." Hitoshi's voice hitched. He was obviously trying to keep his composure. "I thought maybe we could be a family." Shouta pulled Hitoshi into a hug. He could feel him cling onto him as he tried so hard not to sob. Hitoshi so rarely showed any emotions. It seemed like he would just bottle them up and hope they would eventually went away. But he knew from personal experience that that never happened. Eventually, that bottle would overflow, and the chaos emotions that came with it were always far too overwhelming. If he has an issue with you, then that is his problem. Shouta tried to keep his own emotions under control. Seeing Hitoshi break like this made him want to weep as well, or perhaps go out and punch Nakio again. You deserve to be happy, and you know that you are part of our family too. They stayed like that for a while. Hitoshi tried his hardest not to cry, but failing, and Shouta gave him that space to do so. Eventually, he pulled out of the hug, tear tracks staining down his face, and eyes bloodshot, but he looked a little lighter. Thanks. Hitoshi sniffled, and tried to wipe as much of his face as he could. I just don't know what to do. You don't have to worry about anything tonight. Have some dinner, and spend some time with Eri. I'll make some phone calls and figure it out. Shouta went into the kitchen, and made him a plate of leftovers without asking if he had eaten. More than likely he didn't, and a good meal always helped after a cry session. As he was eating, Shouta told Eri to come out. She made a beeline straight for Hitoshi to tell him everything that had happened in the last few weeks without sparing any detail. For a moment, Shouta just watched the kids, happy that they were reunited again. Eri missed Hitoshi in his absence, and would ask on occasion when he was going to come back. It was heartwarming to hear, but at the same time, he didn't know how to explain to her what was happening. Luckily, she was satisfied with his unsure answer, and just hoped he would come to visit soon. Shouta escaped to his room and dialed Shoujiri's number. It only rang twice before it picked up. Shouta, I haven't heard of you for a while. Everything okay with Eri? Yeah, Eri's fine. He sat on the bed. It's Hitoshi, though. Apparently he got into an argument with his dad, and he came here. I thought things were better between them. There was a long sigh from the other end. Do you know what happened? Nakio got a hold of Hitoshi's journal, and they got into an argument when he found out about him having a crush on another boy in his class. Shouta did feel bad for outing Hitoshi to his case carrier, but there wasn't another way to explain it. Plus, it would do better for him to know the full details when he confronted Nakio about it. That was probably the next phone call he had to make after this one. You know, I deal with a lot of shitty parents in my line of work, but Nakio has a way of getting under my skin. I can attest that punching him definitely makes you feel better. Seijiro sighed. You're not helping. There was a pause for a moment before he continued to talk. Keep Hitoshi at your place. I'll give his dad a call and figure something out. Sounds good. And Shouta, do me a favor. Give Hitoshi a hug for me. I will. They hung up, but Shouta worried about what would happen. Nakio probably wouldn't care where Hitoshi ended up at this point, so he knew that the kid would be safe here with them. But he worried about his mental state. No matter how much of an ass Nakio was, he was still Hitoshi's father. Rejection from parents, no matter how shitty they may be, still hurt. He was a child having to face something that no one should have to face. No matter how strong and capable he was, this was going to break Hitoshi. By the time he finally left his room, Shouta walked out to see Hitoshi sitting on the ground facing Eri, who must have decided upon herself to teach him one of the games she played at lunch. It was some rhyme game that required clapping at certain parts. Hitoshi looked like he wasn't really getting the hang of it, but Eri didn't mind. Alright, it's getting late and you both have school tomorrow. Shouta announced, making Eri pout. Toshi, there are some spare clothes in your room. I'm gonna come by and talk to you once Eri goes to bed, okay? Yeah, that's fine. For once, Eri didn't fight back on getting ready for bed. Shouta wasn't sure if she could tell something was off, but he appreciated being able to put her to bed without a fuss. When he tucked her in, Eri gave a soft smile and asked, "Is Tosha gonna stay with us again?" "Probably." "Good. I always wanted a brother." Eri curled up with her stuffed animal, Lemillion. Shouta felt a warmth spread in his chest at the confession, but he didn't have the heart to tell her that he may not be able to stay forever. Instead, he just bid her good night and made his way over to Atoshi's room. When he opened the door, he was just laying on the bed, staring up at the ceiling, like he was lost in thought. This wasn't the first time he noticed the boy drifting off into his own little world. Shouta sat down at the edge of the bed, startling Atoshi into sitting up. "Shijiro said you can stay here until he figures out something with your dad." "I'm not going back." Atoshi crossed his arms. "I didn't say you have to, but there are some legal loopholes that we need to figure out first." "Why can't you just adopt me?" The question surprised Shouta. Well, he wasn't against the idea. In fact, he would have adopted Atoshi if he could have the first time he showed up at the door. But it wasn't that simple. Unless his father gave up all legal custody, Shouta couldn't do anything. "It's complicated." "Do you not want me?" Hurt was evident in his voice. This was a question that came from years of mental abuse, his father making him feel unwelcome in his own home. Shouta wouldn't stand for that. "Hitoshi, you know that if it was possible, I would. I think of you as a son, and I want everything for you. But I can't make a promise that I'm unsure if I could keep. Until things are settled, you're always welcome here." Hitoshi looked down at his hands in his lap as Shouta spoke. "You will always be part of this family, no matter what happens." For the first time, Hitoshi was the one to hug Shouta. He lurched forward and collapsed into Shota's arms. Shouta was overwhelmed with emotions, but didn't say anything else. Instead, he just stroked Hitoshi's hair and allowed the comforting silence to be enough. The three of them quickly fell into a routine. Shouta got both kids up in the morning to get ready for school before making breakfast and lunch for the two. Hitoshi was kind enough to help Eri with whatever task she needed, such as tying shoes, and they would ride the train together. Hitoshi was the first one off the train and would give Eri a hug before he left. Shouta took Eri to school before resuming his journey to work. It was wonderfully domestic, and Shouta would talk to Hizashi to no end at night about both kids, how well they got along, and how much Hitoshi fit in so well. "I'm looking into the adoption process for him, but without his dad giving up legal custody, I can't do anything," Shouta explained while on the phone one night, already tucked into bed. "He agreed to temporary guardianship, but that won't last forever." "How can he still be allowed custody? Obviously, his dad is an abusive asshole," Hizashi answered. "Unless Hitoshi is in physical danger, there isn't much that can be done." "That sucks." "I know, but it's the law. It's hard to find loopholes around it." "Is there anything I could do to help?" Shouta smiled. "That's kind, but I don't think so." For a moment, they fell into comparable silence. While it was sweet of Hisashi to offer, Shouta wanted to change the subject. Every time it was brought up, Shouta felt more and more like a failure, like he was unable to save Hitoshi from his shitty situation. "I got the invitation to the promotion ceremony." Shouta recalled that flyer that Eri brought home from school that day. "The students are so excited," Hisashi replied. "It's only a week away, but they've been practicing how to walk across our stage in class, and parents are going to bring all sorts of treats. Eri has already asked to bake some type of dessert this weekend for it." "I look forward to trying your cooking." "So, I guess that means you won't be your teacher after a week." "Yeah, it does." Shota's heart picked up. They had talked about this several times before. It was something they both knew months in advance. But still, Shouta was nervous. What if, after everything that had happened, Hisashi didn't want to date him anymore? What if he saw what Shota's life was like and decided that he wanted no part of it? "There is this new Briscoe that opened up, and I've heard good things about it. I was thinking perhaps you wanted to come with me once school is finished." "That sounds nice. Although, I kind of thought you were going to pick out that cat cafe across town." He chuckled. Shouta didn't have a response. This may have actually been an idea he'd been floating around, but he knew Eri would be upset that he went without her. Not that that's a bad idea or anything. Hizashi continued, obviously figuring out what Shota's silence meant. It's okay, I understand. Actually, that sounds like something that would be fun to bring Eri along with, if you're comfortable with that. Shouta smiled. Over and over again, Hizashi would go out of his way to find ways to include Eri, which just made Shouta fall even more for him. Having a partner who was comfortable around his daughter was important, and the fact that he always thought about her proved that he cared for her just as much as he cared for Shouta. Obviously, it doesn't have to be anytime soon, or at all if you want. I don't want to intrude on family time, but if you want to, then I'd love to tag along, but... Um... Sashi, you're rambling. Shouta chuckled. But thank you. For what? For being you. Although Shouta couldn't see him, he was certain that Sashi was blushing based on the stuttering answer. They talked for a few minutes longer, before eventually hanging up to sleep. What did I say? What did I say? Sacrifices have to be made, and sacrifices seem to be being made. Unfortunately, yeah, because nothing physical happened. I thought something physical was gonna happen, but because something physical hasn't happened, it's why Shota's kind of between a rock and a hard place, you know? It's devastating. It obviously is. The foster system can be quite bad. The only loophole against this is going into court and having, without a doubt, what's it called? Look, the reason why you need physical abuse more than emotional abuse is because one is easier to prove, right? It's far more easier to prove physical abuse than it is psychological abuse. If a child is being abused psychologically, you know how hard it is to prove that? It is so hard. It is so hard to prove without a doubt that that parent is psychologically abusing their child, right? And unless, you know, a judge rules it that, okay, this is to an extent where I fear for the child's safety, but even then, it's iffy. As I said, unfortunately, the fostering system is like that, and the justice system is like that. Sometimes people get away with shit when they shouldn't. Or in the case of fostering system, their main goal is keeping families together, which is a good thing, but also a double-edged sword, because not all families should be kept together. Yes, there's some families where, you know, the parent actually made a mistake. They're an alcoholic, but they can change. And then there's other circumstances where it is just best to remove the child, because at that point, the parent has lost their privilege to be a parent. And yes, that is a privilege, not something that you, not need, but what was the other word? You require? No. That you're, no, what's the word? I'm gonna go insane. God, I'm going insane. That you need or necessarily, deserve, right? There's a better wording for that, but I can't think of a wording for that right now. But it breaks my heart reading this chapter and reading that. Obviously, I'm pretty sure you're all gonna agree with me. We want Hitoshi to be out of that situation, but sometimes it be like that, and it's sad. So, we're getting close to, you know, first dates and stuff like that. We're also getting close to the end of this series. We have, I believe, 6 chapters left. Ugh, sad, unfortunate. I was thinking of what's gonna take over this slot, and I'm still thinking about that. I don't know what's gonna take over this slot. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. No idea. No idea. I'm gonna be honest. But it's something that I've been thinking, something that I've been sitting and pondering. I don't know what's gonna take over the slot, if something's gonna take over the slot. You know, hold up, give me a second. I'm gonna close my door because somebody opened it. Storm was... Yes, you did, didn't you, you smart ass? Yeah, I have a cat who can open doors, so that's fun. Okay, so, I don't know what fanfiction's gonna take over the slot, I'm gonna share a little bit of news because I'm really excited and happy for this. I recently bought a new body lotion. This is My Hero Academia related because it is Aizawa body lotion. Yep, Aizawa body lotion. It smells nice. I don't know how to describe it. It has like a small scent of like coffee underneath, but it's not like a heavy scent of coffee. I don't really like the smell of coffee that much, right? And it's like this woody, earthy kind of scent. I don't know how to explain it, but it smells like what I would imagine Aizawa to smell like. And because I bought that, they gave me a sample, a small sample, and I love this. It is Mina body butter. It's like a small sample of the Mina body butter. Unfortunately, because it's really hot, it kind of melted, but that's fine. And it smells like grape, citrusy. It's a lot of citrusy. It's like a grape, citrusy, floral smell, if that makes sense. So you could smell the citrus part of it. I can smell the floral part of it, and I am also smelling the grape part of it. The grape is really prominent, while the floral and the citrus is kind of an undertone of it. Like as I said, for Aizawa's, it has a lot of other tones on top of it where the coffee is like an undertone, which really works perfectly. I feel like that smells amazing. I love Mina's. Mina's is a very powerful smell. Aizawa's is a very neutral smell, if that makes sense. So like Aizawa's, like you will notice the smell if you smell it, like, oh, that smells nice, but it's not like something where it's like, ooh, okay, that hits you, right? The Mina one, it hits you and it smells so good. I keep smelling my hands. Throughout the whole recording, I smell my hands, right? Because the body butter got into my hands. I'm trying not to use the body butter if I'm being honest. I low-key want to buy the big bottle of the body butter of hers. Hopefully it wouldn't be, melted, but it is pretty hot. It's the summer, so I don't really blame the buyer. I'm gonna be honest. It is kind of hot, and it still works melted, obviously. It still works. And it's not like anything leaked out or anything. Everything was still inside. Everything was still good. It's just, it's liquidy instead of like the creamy texture that it looks like on their videos, right? So it's not the vendor's fault. It's not the seller's fault. It's nobody's fault. It's hot. It's the weather's fault. Fuck you, weather. Anyways, as always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.